This is Greg for Teslafaninsight with our trade blast for March 16th, 2020. I want to thank you for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We kind of focus on the market crash / Tesla crash that's going on right now today. And as usual, we do a brief trade blast to let you guys know what we think is going on and about to happen. And we're hopeful that things turn around a little bit because it's not been a good situation as you've seen. At any rate, I wanted to thank our Patreon supporters as well as our subscribers. Please note if you're a Patreon subscriber, we actually sent you a post today explaining the rudiments of the trading that I talked about last week that resulted in 300% gain in 24 hours. What's interesting about it, and you'll note at the bottom of that post, is that every 30-point move by Tesla is basically a 300-point gain on that trade that I described. And if you're not a Patreon subscriber, I highly recommend you consider it because I think that you guys would benefit greatly from some of the ideas that are put forward for trading that really don't show up on the main channel. Any rate, I was kind of delaying today because spent most of the weekend in conversations with sort of trading buddies about what was going to happen today on Monday and what we can expect going forward. I'd have to say that I love it when the stock rises versus falling, but if you know it's going to fall, you can actually make a lot of money on puts, which is kind of what's going on for the trading group that I'm a part of right now. And hopefully for you as well, if you understand how to understand it. Also want to make a note, if you didn't see our show where I gave a warning on the 11th in the afternoon, we kind of predicted the situation would happen by multiple days. So again, for those of you who keep track of our show, please note we usually give you 2 or 3 days warning so you can make the call if you want to stay in or get out or buy some hedge or insurance against your positions. And we want to thank those of you in the Patreon community who've signed up recently for our Patreon supporters because clearly information provided has proved out to be accurate, and we were hoping it wouldn't be accurate, but it is. Where we are now is that we're going to open limit down this morning, which means that basically there are a bunch of techniques that were developed as a way to slow or prevent market crashes. One of them is to literally just shut off the stock market. That happens at there's a 7% circuit breaker, 13%, and at 20% down, they actually just shut down the markets for the day. Our estimate is the first circuit breaker is going to hit, market's going to open, and then we think the second circuit breaker is going to hit midday, and the shutdown may occur soon thereafter if things keep going where they're at. What do we think is going to happen over the next 24 hours? I think we're limit down for a couple of days, and then things start to move along into steady and hopefully back up again. But sort of the number of there's just a number of things that are happening right now. As I shared before, I have a technical term called the screwed department, and it's really hard to tell. We all know all the industries that are screwed, be it oil, airlines, banks, hotels, you name it. All these companies are losing a lot of money right now. Disney shut down, even the movie theaters, nobody's in there because you don't want crowds. So it's hard to identify industries that are not devastatingly impacted by everything that we're seeing. And so therefore, that kind of bleeds into the stock market. Obviously Tesla's in a good situation right now, and we're glad to see that. I have to admit that I'm starting to think as Tesla heads to 400, I think it ends up, as I shared, in that 350 range. I kind of feel like it's a really great time to start nibbling at those 600, 700, 800s and stuff like that, because there's so much that's good that's happening for Tesla. The hard part about it, though, is there are a lot of people that will reference, oh, this happened in this time, this happened in this time. Well, yeah, there were market crashes and stuff like that before, but it's rare that we've had a situation, I guess in World War II, I wasn't around for that one, but this smells like a World War II, depression of 1920s situation that we're entering. And, as was the case with those events, it was really hard to tell how long you're going to be stuck in them. So this is why I feel like even in the case of Tesla and other good stocks that have done well, you kind of have people saying, I'm out and I'm staying out. And until things get calm again for me to come back in. So you're seeing great stocks like Tesla getting hit in this process that really don't deserve it because they're doing a great job. So, what is my prediction for this week? I think definitely Tesla at 400, but Tesla at 350 is not out of the question. If you understand or are capable in the option space / puts, I wanted to encourage you to buy as many as you can because we're in a very, very bad position right now. And I just think that, the Fed, Joey just pointed out the Fed, dropped in X amount of money. I have a dumb comment on the Fed, which is that when that money gets put in, there are a lot of rich people in America and around the world. And if they have more money, they feel better, which, given that they're the ones going to get the money from the Fed anyway, they'll just feel better today while the rest of the people are just suffering. So, bottom line is that we're in a very, very tough situation. It's a great time to own puts. It's a great time to liquidate, sit on the sides. I think that there's a conversation about the bottom in the market, and we know a bottom by this. Well, the challenge I'm having with the whole idea of the bottom is how can you claim it's a bottom when you're sitting at home either teleworking or not going to school or not doing other things because you're required to stay home and not be on the streets? So I want to say that feels a lot more like a nuclear bomb hit, and then everybody is trying to survive the hit of the bomb and then sort of restart the society once the bomb clears. And so when is this going to happen? We don't know. And that's part of the problem is that if there was some defined what makes sense, I think we'd be in great shape. There are gazillions of data points that you could use. I was sort of impressed, stunned that the hotel owners in Vegas hadn't figured out a way to sort of, limit the number of people in different spaces to cut down on a chance of spreading coronavirus there. I just think that, it's just a bad situation all around. So I'm supposed to do a show today. I'm doing some editing on my Sandy Monroe show, but I have to admit, I'm a little bummed out because it's nice to make a little money on puts, but it's a lot more fun to see people do well and to see the market get crushed and Tesla get crushed with it. I think it sort of hurts my, excitement, motivation, happiness with what's going on because it's sad to see all those people lose all that money. It's just a bunch of items. One of my viewers sent me a note about Tesla and selling the stock and that they really felt like continuing to own the stock was a key point in supporting the vision of Elon and what he's doing. And I agree with that. The thing about it, though, is that you could still own the stock if you trade in and trade out of it, which I think is a really good idea right now. But it's a shame to sort of stick in and just lose huge amounts of money and then, and still be in when you could have sort of gotten out, come back in, and cut down on the amount of losses that you have. I think that we're in a zone now, though, where I want to say we got a 50-50 shot. Well, one of my professors at Stanford was giving me percentages. So I think that we're in a 5 to 10% chance zone of having a catastrophic failure in the markets. And obviously, you know what I mean, which is stocks that should be worth X amount being worth not zero, but very, very low numbers. And is Tesla among them? Probably not, but I just think that we're going to end up in a fire sale for different things. And I think the market's going to drop severely. And I think people will just run for the hills and sell off stuff they should keep, like Tesla. So I kind of feel like we're not there, but I think in the next couple of days, it might be time to start picking up some calls or things in that 700, 800, 900 range of Tesla and make it out there 6 months, a year. And I think you pick up 10, 20 times your money as a result. So that's one sort of angle at things. The second thing that I'm thinking about is buy bread. What happened is that I have a trading group I've met through my show, and one of the friends, I'm here in Washington, D.C. area, and toilet paper is in short supply. But in Detroit, she was saying that she was trying to make sandwiches for her son and his friends, and I guess they got toilet paper, but they ain't got they have no bread. So if I was headed out into that zone because I have some work to do out there, I was going to maybe bring a bag of bread to hand out to friends in the Detroit area. So if there are other items on the list I should consider, let me know, and I'll just throw in an extra suitcase so that all those items could be brought out rather than going into the shortage mode in your local area. So any rate, trade blast is going longer than a trade blast should. In general, for my Patreon supporters, please read the post that I made this morning. The combo trade, I call it the combo meal trade, I think is huge in its potential to generate nice numbers as we go through this. Number one. Number two, I'd encourage you to consider lightening up on what you own. Even 25 to 30% of what you own. Tax bill won't be too huge, but it really sucked to have the stock price fall dramatically and then it not come back for a while, and then you lose the opportunity for access to that capital. So that's my second thought for the day. Any rate, we look forward to your comments after show beneath. Please remember to like and subscribe, and we'd also appreciate support on Patreon. I would also encourage you to take time to re-watch the last 3 shows from the end of last week, because we give a lot of advice about what we're heading into and things to think about during those shows. And I will thank you for all the questions about the Sandy Monroe interview I did. What's weird about the interview is it was only 12 minutes long, but this interview is a little bit different because, excuse me, typically what Sandy does is kind of sits in the conference room, they talk through an issue. In the case of my show, we kind of go back into Monroe & Associates has multiple locations. The main location, headquarters, is maybe a 8 to 10,000 square foot building in a square, front of it being offices, back of it being kind of an open workspace. And in that space, there are all these tables set up with parts from different vehicles. And in this case, there's a heavy focus right now on Tesla and what's going on for both Monroe Associates and its customers that want to see the take-apart done. And so we ended up spending some time in the shop looking at what's on the tables and what they do with those and kind of what's happening. And frankly, it was my first time to see the insides of every part of the Model 3. And he kind of points out what he thought was impressive. So because it was a short interview, it ends up being appropriate for us to maybe do a 3 or 4 minute clip and then go through general impressions, which is what we're going to be doing with the show today. And that's after I get a chance to go down to Ameritrade and try to get a trade done here today before they shut the markets again. At any rate, I want to thank you for joining us. Stay safe out there in terms of coronaviruses. Please remember our health tips. Don't go to bed within 3 hours of eating, or 4 hours of eating best, at least 2 hours to let the food digest. Number 2, a little exercise is probably a good idea, especially now to reduce anxiety. So some weightlifting wouldn't be a bad idea. Number 3, at least 30 SPF, you've got some sun out there. Number 4, even if you don't, number 4, 5-2 diet or something else in that realm might not be a bad idea. Any rate, I want to thank you again for joining us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thank you for the support of your viewership. We'd appreciate your support on Patreon, but a like and subscribe would also be appreciated. In German, Tschüss, au revoir. In French, Lehitrot. Hebrew, Choda Hafez, Farsi. Hejdo, Swedish. Zdravstvuyte, Russian. Das Vidania, do Vidzenia. And in Jamaica, we say, Nuff respect, Walk Woodman. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. And, best of luck as you do your trading, etc.